From the blog to the boardroom, from the pulpit to the pew, the CQ podcast exists to help you raise your cultural fluency by discussing how culture touches everything from a Christian worldview. Just like a fish swims in water, we swim in culture. Today we swimming with Charnise Mangle, ladies and gentlemen, as we get a chance to talk about culture and education. Charnise, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit nervous. It's you got a real setup going on here.
We're doing what we can.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. What we're gonna talk about, what's gonna come up. It's gonna be natural, organic. So I'm excited.
Amen. Hallelujah. So Charnise Mangle, longtime friend.
Yeah.
She is a educator, has been teaching high school for how long now?
High school, 12 years. I'm in my 12th year right now.
12 years.
Yeah.
That's kind of incredible.
Yeah, it is good. And 6 years at one school and 6 years at another school. So I'm in the thick of it.
In the thick of it. Master's in literacy.
Master's in literacy from Furman.
And I have brought her in to also be on the board of the CQ initiative. So
you
praise God
really
for that.
talked me into that one because I'm trying to roll off some boards right now. Not roll on, but you convinced me because this is such a great opportunity. I think this is very unique and I think really gets at the heart of some of the things that I've been wanting to do, but haven't found an avenue to do them in. But
yeah, we're excited. When the Lord calls,
you must answer.
So let's, as we start again, we're talking about culture and education. One of the verses, everything we do is from a Christian worldview, that I was thinking about just because as people come into education, people come from a bunch of different frameworks and backgrounds. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about Genesis, just the doctrine of the Imago Dei. We're all created in the image of God. Mm-hmm. So it says, in the beginning, God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And then God blessed them and said to them. And I love that. I love it's simple. It's clear that we all have been made uniquely, intentionally for a purpose, and God's trying to get glory out of the uniqueness within us. Yeah. And I think that's important as we talk about the framework of culture and education. Mm. But Charnise, let me ask you this. What brought you as a Black woman into the educational space? Like, why are you a high school teacher?
Oh, why am I a high school teacher? I think I'm a high school teacher because, honestly, it was hard. I grew up in the suburbs of Greenville County school district. I went to Malden High, go Mavs. And honestly, I had a really great time, a really great experience by and large, but there were a lot of times where there were some difficult things that would happen. I had the good pleasure of being one of the student body presidents my senior year. And there were just many different little racial things that happened. And I honestly wish I could have had a teacher like myself that I could have gone to navigate, how do I handle this? Or I'm feeling this way, is that an okay feeling? Or I'm feeling like I want to withdraw, but I also feel like withdrawing is not super helpful, but I need to take care of myself. So I think if I had had a teacher that I could have gone to in that moment, because it's one thing to call your parents, you got cell phones. So I did call my mom and talk to her, but it'd have been great to have had someone in the building, you know what I mean, that was similar to myself. And there were maybe, I think, 3 African-American teachers in total there, but I never had any of them. So
you didn't have a single one?
I didn't have a single one of those teachers that particular year. I think my junior year was the last year that I had a Black teacher for Spanish class, actually. But we didn't really build any kind of unique relationship. I think the last time I had a teacher that was African-American that I built a relationship with was Miss Woods. Shout out to Miss Woods, 7th grade social studies teacher. Or English. I can't even remember if it was social studies or English, actually.
Well, that's wild, though, to think about. And I feel similarly growing up with not having any teachers of color, very few teachers of color.
Yeah.
To be able to think about navigating an educational space when you're spending the majority of your time there as a kid.
Yes,
exactly. The majority of your discipleship, your education, all that's coming from your schooling.
Yes.
And to not have somebody who looks like you, who's from your cultural background, to be able to pour into you and help you navigate even cultural, racial tensions.
Yes. I mean, seems like that is a specific, I just remember specific things that happened where that was hard, but also just being a leader of a predominantly white school, you know what I mean? Here I am as the student body president, and I don't look like most of the people, and things that would come up sometimes. I'm like, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it seems like a big deal to you, and I know it's like very small scale. We're just in high school, but I think it would have been really great I mean, I've just had so many students my time at the different schools I've taught at who've come to me and said, hey, can we get this club started? The Black Student Union at one of my public schools that I've taught at. And then at another one, we did a Students of Excellence Club, which was predominantly for Black females at the school. And so, yeah, we never started any club like that, or that club did not exist when I was in high school, because I wouldn't even have known what teacher to have gone to be like, what you think about that?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's the thinking, or I mean, it sounds like your impetus or reason you wanted to get into education as a profession was to provide for students what you didn't have yourself.
Exactly.
And so your, journey, I know you went to Clemson.
Yeah.
And then started out teaching. And how has that been navigating that educational space as a Black woman?
It's had its ups and downs, that's for sure. Because the upswing, I would say, is you get to be in some rooms and I don't often always shy away from being a representative of what it looks like to be a Black woman in a space, I like that. Sometimes I like the challenge of that. Now, by no means do I want to be the sole representative, but I do take pride in when I am the only one in a room showing people this is what Black excellence looks like. And so I would say, being in Greenville County, where I first started out a teacher, I was one of the only, if not the, for some of those years, only Black teacher of U.S. history. Okay. And that's like specific to high school, specific to Greenville County, but at that time it was like 13 high schools. So the fact that I was the only one when we would go to those district-wide meetings is interesting, because I'm bringing a different schema and personal lived experience as I am teaching this content. You know what I mean? So in those rooms, a lot of the times when we would break up by subject matter, it's predominantly white males, and so it's a whole different conversation when I'm in the room. And then when I got to do some of the stuff around the standards, and as we were shaping some of the curriculum around that at the state level, and I got to do some of those meetings, and I remember there was a older Black male gentleman, and he kind of like took me under his wing, and I can't even remember his name, but he kind of like took me under his wing, and I really just enjoyed like learning from him, and I wish I had an experience like that I could take home with me to Greenville County, because he was from, I believe, the Low Country, if memory serves me right, if not even from Columbia in and of itself, but yeah, and that's same thing. It's happened many times.
I love that too. I think you drew out an important point of mentorship.
Yes.
And thinking through how a lot of times when you're a Black person in a majority context, it's hard to endure, stay in it.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things that can help is mentorship.
Oh, yeah. Having someone in your circle.
Yeah.
Or in your corner, really, I guess. That's they can help you just stay the course, right, over troublesome water. Like when you feel like something has been said or something has been done that feels like a microaggression or is a just blatant aggression. How do you weather that storm, right? And what does it look like to weather it also well, not letting people just, bum rush you and walk over you, but also not maybe moving into it super aggressively and fighting aggression with aggression. So like, how do you navigate those situations I don't know, Enneagram, if anyone's out there has done Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 8 wing 9, which some further research told me that it was a diplomat. And so my diplomacy skills are really great. But also I just sometimes wish that I had someone who was as diplomatic as me that I could go and talk to and help me to navigate something. Because I feel like sometimes I'll ask for advice and people are like, you just got to do this. And I'm like, that seems a little too harsh for me. And then sometimes people are like, oh, don't do anything. And I'm like, I don't think that's a great idea either, because it sets a precedent,
Yeah.
So how to navigate it. Yeah.
And even I would think even navigating that as a Black woman in that space without like, if you don't have the Black mentorship or a lot of it, sometimes it's hard to even tell, okay, like, is this happening? Is this a cultural difference? Is this a microaggression? Do I need to go talk to somebody
exactly
about what's happening for my kids or for myself? So to be able to have somebody to kind of bounce ideas off of
Yeah.
is important. I'm curious, for people who aren't in education like you are,
Hmm.
a window, if you could paint a window into what it's like as a Black woman just in educational spaces, and if you have any stories too
Mm.
of maybe sometimes where it's been challenging or difficult navigating those spaces as a Black woman.
Navigating those schedules. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, say that's loaded.
That's loaded. Yeah. I would say, yeah. Ooh, navigating those. I think for me, I would definitely have to say how to bring your truest, most authentic self to the situation.
Mm,
Understanding though that you are navigating a predominantly white space,
mm,
and understanding the way that someone is going to perceive you and interpret things that you're doing, or not doing, and how they're going to add weight to that, decrease weight to that, and do some things, maybe even restructuring what you said to mean something that you didn't mean,
mm.
and take things out of context as well, I think is something that really does make me extremely nervous.
Yeah.
And so that is something that makes it unique for me in navigating, I think, the spaces that I've been in that I have not really enjoyed and have been hard. But it's also really beautiful to give people, for me, I think, a different version of what they thought they knew. Um, I don't know, a Black person to be,
Mm.
and to restructure their whole thinking, and they have to think differently because of their experience that they've had with me. And then they've got to, maybe renegotiate some of the previous experience or future experiences that they're going to have because of their experience they had with me. And that excites me, I think, a lot, because I think it's important, for people to just be challenged. And I
Yeah.
think that who I am and what I bring to the table oftentimes challenges people. So yeah.
Yeah, so you saying you are redefining and kind of breaking stereotypes and prejudices that people have had over
Yes.
Black women
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
particular.
In particular. Yeah.
Yeah. And that
Without.
makes sense. It's like, yeah, I mean, a lot of times, whether it be your co-working space or whatever, like until you actually know somebody
Mhm.
like that, all of our basis for that
Mhm.
cultural group will be based on usually a few characters.
Yes.
And so you're like you have liked that in the educational space
Yeah.
in part, or at least seen it purposeful to break down some of those stereotypes
Correct.
for other people to be like,
There's
nah, Black woman like this.
Yes, exactly. Like students think, like you mentioned before, you hadn't had many Black teachers,
Uh-huh.
right? And that's true for most students, right? And so when they come into the classroom, it's like they are coming into the classroom with their own preconceived notions and thoughts or whatever. And so my hope, my desire is to break some of those down that they may be thinking, particularly about how they're going to be perceived or what have you when it comes to a Black teacher,
Mm.
right? And to figure out how are we going to bring our own previous experiences to this classroom and talk about, some hard things, because I also teach social studies. And
Yeah.
so that can be difficult content as well.
Yeah. So last question I'll ask kind of about the challenges of your experience, because one of the things I love about you is you're also a culture creator, like
Ah,
you in the classroom. So I want to
yeah,
talk
thanks.
about some of that in students. But one of the things that we talked about a little bit was when institution wants to, like, maybe they're well-meaning and wants to hire a more diverse group,
Mm-hmm.
particularly Black people.
Yeah.
So they'll go and do something like this, like, hey, you know what, we maybe they see the value
Yeah.
of diversity, or they just go, hey, our student population is this demographic, and so we need to have some leadership. You're like, praise God for that. Like, that's a
Mm-hmm.
great thing. But then sometimes they go do it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't last. It doesn't stick.
Mm-mm.
I know you've had some experience with
A
that. I
hundred
would love to just
percent.
hear some of your experience, whether like what could they have done better to
Mm.
keep maybe some of the coworkers, Black coworkers that were hired, and then also what has given you the wherewithal to be able to endure that? Like, is there anything unique about you
Mm.
that helps you to endure in spaces like that?
Some of the things they could have just really have done beforehand would have been to have created an environment and a culture within the school
Mm,
that was inviting to those people. I think that many of the places just did not create an environment that was ready to receive a diverse coalition of new people. And unfortunately, subsequently, after 1, 2, 3 years, all that remains in some of those instances is me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do have to think like, oh, why is it that I'm still here? And I think part of the reason is because I have some additional, I want to say skills, but I don't know if that's the right terminology I want to use necessarily. But I grew up in a suburban environment. I went to predominantly white elementary, middle, high school, predominantly two different predominantly white colleges. And I think I just maybe have an acumen maybe for how to navigate situations like the ones that I subsequently ended up working in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you're saying I've been around a lot of white people, and I know how to operate around white people.
That's a more direct way of saying it, I would say. But again, my diplomacy won't let me do it. But yes,
I'm an 8. I don't know what my wing is.
Okay. I see. So yeah, I am just unwilling to kind of like just not see where are the issues coming up at, and really try to speak to those issues, and really, as a lot of my coworkers have said to me before, particularly the African American females that have worked with me in the past and even today, I love it when you say, I'm gonna circle back, or can we circle back? Or I've heard you go into the office and I've heard you say, circling back. It's because you were able to understand that in that moment something was happening with a white coworker or something like that, or someone who had authority over, be it department chair, be it, someone higher up at the school has done or said something that was offensive to me, and I perceived maybe as a microaggression or something, but instead of speaking to it in that moment, I decided to pause, say, hey, can we pick this up another time? Something about this conversation, the situation, it's not sitting well with me, and I think I need just a moment to kind of gather my thoughts. And so, but once those thoughts have been gathered, maybe it just was an hour, 2 hours next day, whenever I go back to them, I say, could we circle back to the conversation we had or could we put that on the calendar to do another time? And I think that being in white spaces has actually helped me to be able to do that, because I know that if I say something in that moment, my intensity, my passion will be perceived as the angry Black woman. And I don't want that perception. And I think that perception is so unfair to so many Black women, because oftentimes we have the receipts of what happened, right? So, but we can't be taken seriously because we are going to approach it directly. And that directness that is off-putting both in women and also particularly in a Black woman who is coming directly with authority and speaking to an issue.
Man, that's bars. Because I hear you saying acumen, adaptability. I've gotten to circle back from you before, but I like it because it's like you have learned how to. This is what I like. You've learned how to navigate stereotypes while still being able to express yourself.
Yes.
So you're navigating. Hey, if I respond right now, they might interpret me as an angry Black woman. So I'm not going to respond right now, but I am going to respond.
I am going to respond.
Because sometimes I think people, it's like, and again, to me, that's got to be emotional health too. Like you must have emotional maturity about you to be able to navigate the spaces where a lot of folks, it's hard. It's like, because when you're dealing against a barrier, you want to be able to respond.
Correct.
And then you do, and you get misinterpreted.
Yes.
Or you go, it's not, not even, it's not that deep, but this is just the world.
Yeah.
And so you just acquiesce.
And the response is necessary, because if you don't speak into the void, the person is left to be able to fill that void with whatever they want to. And lots of times I feel like we fill the void with lies, half-truths, and also, if at nothing else, our response and our answer from our perspective that did not account for the other person because they did not themselves desire, or sometimes this is the frustrating part, is like what is your own personal self-value of your voice that you allowed it to be absent at the end of the day and allowed the person to walk away making whatever conclusion that they wanted to about you
Come on.
and signing, sealing, and I don't like that. You will not help me. You will not get me to co-sign my own defamation of character.
Ooh,
I just won't
she's
do
saying
it.
something. No, and I think that's what's up. And I think a lot of folk, their stereotypes get affirmed when they can say something and there is no pushback.
Yes.
Or you can go, oh, my friend, they cool with all this.
Yes.
I'm not this way. We're doing great.
Yeah.
Our diversity scores, all this kind of stuff, we're crushing it. But it's because you're saying stuff and ain't nobody checking them.
Yes.
So I definitely am with you on all that too. So that's really good. Tell me, okay, so one of the things you do well is you create culture well. And I remember first hearing about some of this. You was way more active on social media today, and you had like a House of Mangle.
Yeah, the House of Mangle. Yeah,
That's
Instagram.
when I first was like, dang, she is saying, like, you were creating a culture.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, thinking even about the students you were serving and how creating culture. Like, I'm curious how that affected your white students and your black students. Like, how were they responding to your culture creating, and how did that meet them in their different cultural backgrounds, personality backgrounds, and economic backgrounds, and all this kind of stuff?
Oh, I love that. I love that question. But before I can answer that, I do want to just say one last thing about that previous question and my answer, and just kind of, I do want to just put that into the atmosphere, which is it cost me a lot to do that work. So the work that I just talked about in regards to the labor of circling back, the labor of keeping my composure, the labor of not saying what I want to say when I want to say it, it's labor intensive and it cost me a lot. And I think for Black women in particular, it cost us specifically in mental health things that then how they are in the body and they live in the body is that they cause the different types of kind of non-physical per se illnesses that we have that are more autoimmune disorders and things like that. It's because we're so stressed out and that's how it's presenting itself in our body. And we have so many different types of mineral deficiencies. And so that compounded and that's just because our melanin, vitamin D doesn't get in, things like this. Our bodies don't absorb iron super well or magnesium super well necessarily. And then to compound that with the different stressors of our jobs and our lives, and many of us are mothers, some of them are single mothers. And then you got this unnecessary stress, and then you're trying to navigate how you're going to respond to it. And then you got to do all this additional mental work. That's why they don't want to do it. And this is why they're angry. You're catching the heat that maybe wasn't necessarily yours to catch, but what you said was so passive aggressive and unnecessary that you about to catch all that I'm being put under by the construction of the American way that's got Black women having to carry what feels like everybody on their back. So I just want to be very clear, though, about I do this. I am glad to do this. I feel like I sit in a very privileged place to lay myself down to do this because of the weights that other people are lifting off of me. And also, I want to be very clear, too, that I am 35 years old. So I am older but young. I do not have children. I am in a really great relationship where I'm not married, but I hope to be. And but he does a lot of heavy lifting for me that allows me to just feel soft in other places so that I can bring a true authentic self to the workplace. That is willing to do all this additional labor that is very hard to do. So
I feel like I need to get up.
I just needed to say that.
Yeah,
sorry. Before we move on.
No, you did need to say every single bit of that. I mean, I literally was just at a training on domestic violence, and they were talking about how kids who grow up in homes like that, they will develop allergies. And the man doing the demonstration or the presentation said that he was allergic. He couldn't be around grass, and then he left home, and all his allergies went away. What? The body carries stuff.
Yeah. The
body carries stuff. And that's so true for Black women.
Yeah.
With weathering. So I just appreciate you saying it because I mean, if you're leading anything or if someone's leading something or trying to you have to account for the cost
Mm-hmm.
that a POC, a minority, a black woman in particular, is carrying to be in the space.
Correct.
And if you don't account, if you try to treat everybody the same,
Yes.
you're going to do damage.
Exactly.
And you're not accounting for the sacrifices they're making.
Yes.
And so I love that point you made.
Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Those words.
Okay, so the House of Mangle. Okay, so the House of Mangle actually started, it was birthed out of just like fun. Like literally, I was setting up for the beginning of the school year. I believe it was either 2015 or 2016, but I think it was 2015. I was setting up for the school year and I was just like, I'm excited. I've seen some things where teachers are talking or whatever on their personal accounts. I was like, I'm going to create an account specifically for my teacher persona, actually, like, because I feel like teacher Char is different than the Charnise that you get in her actual life. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna show everybody what the students get to have when they come to class, right? And then I started my master's studies at Furman and needed for my final like kind of paper for a class like this ethnography, right? And like, where are you seeing that in your life? And I realized, oh, I'm doing that by the way that I invite parents in, really, and students into the classroom, and we're having this good time and we are capturing what's happening in the moment, right? And so I was thinking, we are collecting all of these different images. We're getting the parents connected. Students can remember their experience in this class. This is a beautiful thing. And I then started thinking, okay, how can I use this better? And how can I engage the students? And how can they feel like they're taking ownership of this? And there's actually another account out there about the unsung civil rights activist. And I really love that one in particular because the students got to participate in it themselves as well, right? So they're posting all of these different unsung civil rights activists on social media, and people are picking it up back then. So I'm curious, actually, myself, now I say this out loud, how that social media account is going. But yeah. I just think it's really important for teachers to create an environment in their classroom by which students feel like it's theirs, right? And there was a book I read during that time called White Folks Who Teach in the Hood and the Rest of Y'all Too, by an author who is just really powerful. Again, his name escapes me. But that book was so profound because he believed it was so important for the culture that a teacher creates in the environment of their classroom to get students to have ownership of the lessons, of the things that they create. And it's so important because then everyone feels a part of it. And to your question about how were, I guess, different racial groups of students feeling in the classroom, they loved it. I mean, they genuinely loved it. I mean, some of the best love that I guess the deepest love that I got from some of my students was actually from white male students. They felt seen, heard in a unique way, but still challenged. Like that some of the things that they would say in class, I would always ask them, what do you mean by that? Unpack that. And follow that up with additional questions where when they had to question themselves on a thought they had, particularly in a U.S. history government classroom, they had to think, why am I holding this particular perspective? And them debunking some of that, and then also staying firm on what they believed, and then understanding, okay, I'm standing 10 toes down on this, but now I know why, and I have the evidence, versus I'm just regurgitating the things that I've heard people around me say. I'm forming my own opinions. And I think it's important for the content that I particularly teach, being government and politics and U.S. history, that students understand the history of the past from which we came, where we are and where we're going, and then where are they in that story, and situated.
I love it too, because you said you're trying to help everybody, like, know that they have a place.
That everyone has a place.
And to your point, to kind of connect two things, you were saying why some black teachers don't stay is because there's not an environment created for them. It's like they don't have a place.
Correct.
And then in your classroom, you're creating a place.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times, like, we have influence, and a lot of us in different spaces, we're creating places, cultures, all this kind of stuff. But if we aren't collaborating with who's there, there's no place for them.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I find, I'm curious your thoughts on this. I find too, let's say you have a place created, but you also want to welcome other people into the place.
Yes.
So like you have something that already has a culture, but you're trying to welcome other people into the
Yes.
culture who are of a different culture.
Yes.
And so you have to be able to give them a voice
Mm-hmm.
if they are going to ever feel at home
Yes.
in this thing that they are not
A
initially
part. Yes.
not
Yeah.
a part of. You know, so with the leadership structured a particular way, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
listening to their voices. I can tell you're asking open-ended questions.
Yes. Always.
To see people's perspectives, but also challenging them. Like you're
Correct.
like, oh, what you mean by this?
Mm-hmm.
What you mean by this?
Take me on a journey.
And I think a lot of times people would do much better in cultural spaces if we just ask the person who's not like us what you mean by this.
Yes.
What,
Because
can
it
you
puts
tell
the
me
onus.
more?
Yeah.
Can you go deeper? Can you just explain to me? I don't quite understand this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even thinking about in 1 Corinthians 12, because like sometimes people, like when it comes to diversity groups, culture things, accounting for all this, people can talk about favoritism. Or you're showing favoritism to the person of color, you're showing favoritism to the black person because you have these groups set aside for them or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
We won't get into all of DEI.
Yeah.
Action. Let's not do that right now. But that passage is important because it talks about the parts that get less honor, showing them special attention.
Yeah.
And I do think when you have somebody from a different cultural group coming into a majority space, you do have to show them special attention.
You do. Yeah.
Because they naturally, even if it's unintentional, actually receive less honor in whatever space that they're going to occupy. So it sounds like House of Mangle's like doing some of that in a cool way.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. And that's why, particularly where I am now, there's not as many male students. And so I often am concerned about where they feel like they are and their value of their voices. And it's interesting what you're saying because, in society, male voices are definitely at a higher tier than female voices in most places in the world. But where I particularly am in the school that I'm at now, there aren't as many males. And I think amongst the students too, I would wonder, I haven't really asked this question, but I would just wonder how some of them feel, And honestly, it's been hard actually in the 6 years that I've been at the school out where I have been to create that same House of Mangle culture that really as I was sharing that with you, I felt this excitement in my voice and in my own body to share that story of where it started and where it really was at its height pre-pandemic, and then post-pandemic, moving to a different school and having different experiences, how the culture that I created in that classroom at that particular school, I've not necessarily been able to create at the school where I currently am. And I have not been able to, in the last 6 years, been able to figure out why that is.
Wow.
Subsequently, today I'm just not even present on social media like that anymore. So it is interesting how culture changes from one place often to the next.
That is so interesting, and how we try to even our ability to adapt and knowing, okay, this worked here, this might not work here. It might not be able to do the same thing in this new place.
Correct.
But what does it mean to meet those kids where they are?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear some too about, because there's a lot of inequities in the school system, and not that we're here to talk about them or solve all those problems, but I do think in some ways it's important to know, like suspension rates are significantly different in African Americans in schools. A lot of times performance is there's great just disparity between them, and even it's a lot there. So just since I got you here, I'm just curious how you relate to that, because one of the things I've always admired about you is not only your classroom teacher, but you out in the city doing some stuff. So you're an advocate. You're on a lot of boards. You care about justice.
I do.
I think from a very biblical standpoint, and so you're trying to go, what's this look like? And so I don't know if there's anything to say of your experience of that too for somebody who, a lot of listeners, a lot of people are thinking about maybe they got kids in school, nephews in school, nieces in school, and it's complicated to think about what do I do? Like there's such big systematic problems. How do I think about that? So I'm just curious how you've maybe even personally thought about those things. in the educational space over the years? And is there anything that's like settled you, or do you still feel the same level of like prophetic conviction? We got to change, like how do you
Yeah.
relate to all that?
It's hard. I mean, it's so hard. I am so passionate about public education in
Mhm.
particular. I think it does the most good in our
Mhm.
society, and we really need it. Like, I don't think that we will understand how much we need it until we dismantle it, defund it,
Mm.
and when I say defund, I don't mean like take all the funds, but just like less funds, not fully funding it is a better way, I guess, of saying
Mm.
that. We're not going to see that until 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road after taking away those federal dollars, not having that oversight, like with the Department of Education. And things like that, and leaving it to the states to make their own decisions. Unfortunately, some states just aren't going to make the best decision of
Mm.
investing in the next generation of their citizenry or constituents. And I think what's really important is for people to really find out, what breaks their heart. Like, because
Mm.
the Lord's heart is broken by all the things that are not good, right? But I think as a believer, as a Christian, you ask the Lord to break my heart, and He will break your heart, particularly, in my opinion, for the things that you are uniquely gifted to probably respond to
Mm.
and move in action towards. Like I'm not a linguist, right?
Mm.
I don't speak a second language. So He's
You said
probably
sequent.
second
I
language.
was kidding.
I'm screaming. But yeah, I don't speak a second language, and therefore, I am only going to be able to do but so much
Yeah.
for like bilingual students or English as a second language kind of
Mm.
students, right? However, I am a Black woman who teaches. And so, beyond just teaching my content area, I think about the suspension rate of Black females,
Mm.
right? So, in certain schools, that is extremely high, and for very minuscule issues, right? There's a book called Push Out that talks about that. But you've got to figure out the thing that breaks your heart, and then you've got to figure out what is my role or responsibility in moving towards remedying that issue, and where's my sphere of influence in
Mm.
that issue, because it won't be everything, right? There's only
That's
but
good.
so much that you have time to do in a day, capacity to do, but it is your responsibility to move towards it, in my opinion, and to move in action again within your sphere of influence. And so I think one of the things for me, as you mentioned, I serve on boards in Greenville. I would say, yeah, it's really important to me. Like, for example, one of the boards I serve on is called Lead Collective.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we do is particularly for the Nickeltown community where I live. So
Mm.
it's like, that's really important to me because I live in that community, right? So providing those after school resources is very important. However, as I mentioned before, I'm concerned about the rate that young Black women are girls are pushed out of classrooms, but also young Black boys as well, right?
Mm.
And then them potentially making their way into a pipeline, the school to prison pipeline,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so also with Lead Collective we do Reach, which is helping young men who have committed crimes not recidivize, how to
Mm.
mentor them, right? How to galvanize around them. And so I think that those things are really important. And then the last thing that we do in that organization, Lead Collective, is we have GOAT, which is outdoor adventures for
Mm.
students in under-resourced communities, right? And we also partner with other nonprofits, particularly in the summertime. And it gives these students who maybe wouldn't have otherwise gone to Table Rock, which is
Mm.
really in Greenville, right down the street, but
Yeah.
they ain't never seen it. They ain't never been outside to experience that. But when they do, it changes their whole um, ability to dream and to cast vision for their own life. And I
Mm.
think it's so very important that you become a part of something that's uniquely um, and uniquely specific about your gifts that you can give to, right? And then again, the key is move in action. Do something,
Yeah.
please. Don't stay there.
Right. Right. Get involved.
Get
And I
involved.
and I love that too. I think again, it's like the way you're thinking about some of those disparities is some of the boards you're on and trying to just help serve
Mm-hmm.
in after school care and things like this. So I love that. Last question I got for you.
Yeah.
How has Jesus informed you doing all this educational work?
A
I know
hundred
it's probably a
percent.
big answer, but like, how has he been a lens? How has he given you endurance? However you want to take it. How has he been?
I mean, he's the center of it all. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, I actually changed my major at Clemson from a history major only because I wanted to go to a school and be pre law and end up becoming a lawyer. And I wanted to actually become a prosecutor to provide alternative to prison opportunities for youth offenders. Actually, that's actually what I wanted to do. But then I got to working with young people in different capacities. I was tutoring, just going up to the school and tutoring. I also joined a nonprofit organization called Young Life and was doing a lot of work with working with young people at the high school level. And I just realized, man, I really just like being with them at the high school, oddly enough. Like, I just like chopping it up with them at the lunch table. And also, when I started doing my student teaching, I realized once I switched my major to education, I enjoyed just explaining how the history of our nation and our world worked. And I saw the light bulbs going off. And so Jesus was at the center of all of that, in my opinion, because there was never a time where I was like, I'm in it to make money, right? I was in it always like a prosecutor don't make
Yeah,
money. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, and
So you don't make a lot of money as a teacher?
I don't make a lot of money as I know, crazy. Except for I do like nice things. That's the thing is that the
Tension.
Lord's got
It's
the tension, the tension. I mean, I'm holding a lot of things. So I do not have an occupation that makes me a lot of money, but I am so rich in the experiences of getting to impact the next generation. And I get to do that for Christ, I believe, because I myself serve him and he is the overflow of why I do anything of what I do. But these students are touched, I hope, in a unique way, that they see that Miss Mangle is different, right? And the way that she conducts herself and comports herself at school and how she talks to me, how she engages with me, but also in how she treats me. I mean, there have been times where students have felt mistreated, and it hurts me to hear that they felt that about me, right? And I want to circle back with them immediately and say, that's on me. I take full responsibility for how my words may have harmed you or made you feel, and how can we work towards repair, right? And so I just think that the Lord has been central to, I feel like, and I actually kind of hate when people say teaching is a calling because it feels like it gives credence to why we're able to be underpaid is because we love it so much, right? But it is a calling, and I feel that the Lord called me to teaching, and that is my mission field and that is my ministry. However, I guess I also believe in a very clear line too, though, of the separation of church and state, in the sense of I, Charnise Nicole Mangle, have the reasons by which I do what I do, but by no means am I trying to use my position as a teacher to try and get students to become Christians, but rather to experience Christ by their experience of me,
Yeah.
and that I be a great ambassador of who he is.
Yeah, even the way you talked about forgiveness to me is a very Christian response that a lot of Christians struggle with, is to take full responsibility for the way that I've wronged you and how can I make amends.
Yes.
Like that is a very for me to own my stuff is Jesus
It's 100%.
personally, because I'm like I don't have the power to really and have the humility to be able to acknowledge my own failure, especially from a seat of authority.
Yes.
Unless I trust that Christ has really covered me.
Correct.
And so for you to even say to a kid when you because again you're saying I'm trying to exude Christ to them, and when I fall short,
yes. Exactly.
I ask for forgiveness.
I ask for
to a
forgiveness.
kid, and I think that it's crazy. I've heard a lot of stories too in other sectors of it was actually. I mean, I was really hearing a story from a guy talking about a mentor that he followed, and it was actually he was kind of in that window of am I a Christian or not, but he had been walking with this guy for a while, and he said it was actually the moment when he fell.
Mm.
He said he was like, I don't know where he was. Maybe he was like out at a place with them and like a girl flirted with him and he flirted back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he was married or not, the mentor dude.
Yeah.
He got in the car and he just fell apart because he realized like he did what he shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And he was like, when that guy,
Mm-hmm.
when I saw him take responsibility for his stuff, that's actually when I was like, oh, I don't love Jesus like that.
Ah, okay.
And I think there's something to when someone can humbly acknowledge their own stuff
Yeah.
that can really exalt Jesus in a really, really powerful way. So I love that. And I think that's such a beautiful thing for teachers to do too, and for you to show off Christ that way. But
Yeah, because
yeah.
you know that at the end of the day, my fleshly being as a human does not want to cede, anything, give up any type of ground, and not especially not with no 16, 17,
Who was probably
18-year-old
acting a
high
fool
school.
yesterday.
Exactly.
And then you got to apologize today.
What?
No.
Because they not apologizing to me, but it
Never.
don't matter. That's not their work. It's
Right.
mine.
Right. Well, praise God.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation. I love thinking about culture and education. There's so much more we could do, but thank you for being on the CQ podcast on today. Charnise, thanks.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Be blessed.